Can you smell it? Even now, 2,500 years later, the air in the pass of Thermopylae feels heavy. The scent of rusted bronze and old blood seems to linger on the rocks. History books will tell you that what happened here was a battle. They will tell you it was a heroic stand of a few against many. They are lying to you. This was not a battle. This was the most magnificent calculated mass suicide in human history. When King Leonidas marched his men to the hot gates, he did not go there to win. He did not go there to conquer. He went there to die. And he took 300 of his finest men with him, knowing that none of them would ever see Sparta again. Today, we strip away the Hollywood myths. We forget the slow-motion action scenes and the monsters. Instead, we look into the mind of a 60-year-old king who looked at a god and chose to bleed. Welcome to the hot gates. Welcome to Thermopylae. To understand the sacrifice, we must first understand the threat. In the year 480 BC, the world was ending. Xerxes, the king of kings, the ruler of the Persian Empire, had launched an invasion unlike anything the earth had ever seen. Historical accounts vary, but they speak of an army so vast it drank rivers dry. They marched not just to conquer Greece, but to erase it. Xerxes did not view himself as a mere mortal leader. He viewed himself as a god walking among men. He demanded earth and water, total submission. Against this tidal wave stood a fractured collection of Greek city-states. They were bickering, divided, and unprepared. They needed time to assemble a defense. They needed a shield, and Sparta was that shield. But Sparta was paralyzed. It was the time of the Carnea, a sacred religious festival. To march to war during the festival was forbidden. It was an insult to the gods. The Spartan council refused to send the full army. They argued that if they broke religious law, the gods would destroy them. Leonidas, one of the two kings of Sparta, faced an impossible choice. He had visited the oracle of Delphi. The Pythia, sitting over the volcanic vapors, had given him a chilling prophecy. She said that either the city of Sparta would be reduced to ash, or it would mourn the death of a king. The choice was binary: the city or the king. Leonidas made his decision. If the army could not march, he would take a personal bodyguard, a royal detail. He selected 300 men, but not just any men. He chose only those who had living sons to carry on their family lines. He was effectively telling them, "You are not coming back. Your line must continue without you." As they marched north, they were joined by other Greeks, Thespians, Thebans, Phocians, about 7,000 in total. A respectable force, but against hundreds of thousands of Persians it was a joke. But Leonidas had a weapon greater than numbers. He had geography, Thermopylae, the hot gates, a narrow coastal pass with the sheer cliffs of Mount Kallidromos on one side and the sea on the other. In some places, the pass was only 50 feet wide. It didn't matter if Xerxes had 1,000,000 men or 1,000,000,000. In that narrow choke point, numbers meant nothing. Only the front line mattered. When the Persian army arrived, the sight must have been terrifying. The ground shook with their march. Xerxes set up his throne on a nearby hill to watch the easy victory. He sent a scout to observe the Spartans. The scout reported back something strange. He said the Spartans were not panicking. They were combing their long hair and oiling their bodies. They were doing gymnastics. Xerxes laughed. He thought they were vain. He didn't understand. In Spartan culture, men groomed themselves only when they were preparing to die. They were making themselves beautiful corpses for the afterlife. Xerxes waited 4 days, expecting them to run away in terror. When they didn't, he sent an envoy. The message was simple: "Surrender your weapons, and I will spare your lives." Leonidas looked at the envoy. He didn't give a speech. He didn't shout. He simply said 2 words that would echo for eternity: "Molon Labe." Come and take them. And so, the slaughter began. For 2 days, the impossible happened. Wave after wave of Persian infantry crashed against the Spartan shield wall, the phalanx, and wave after wave they were broken. The Spartans were machines of war. They fought as a single organism, shield locked to shield, spears bristling like a porcupine. The Persians, with their wicker shields and shorter spears, couldn't get close. They were butchered in the narrow pass. The bodies piled up so high they became a wall in themselves. Xerxes was furious. He reportedly jumped from his throne 3 times in rage. He sent in his elite guard, the Immortals, 10,000 silent, masked killers, the best warriors in Asia. The Spartans slaughtered them too. They used a tactic of feigned retreat, pretending to run away, breaking their formation, and then, as the Immortals chased them, wheeling around and crushing them. For 48 hours, the greatest empire on earth was held hostage by a few thousand Greeks. It seemed like a miracle. It seemed like they might actually hold the pass indefinitely. But history is rarely shaped by heroes alone. It is shaped by traitors. Enter Ephialtes. He was a local Greek, a man who knew the land. Driven by greed and the promise of a rich reward, he went to Xerxes. He told the King of Kings about a secret goat path, a narrow trail that wound through the mountains and came out behind the Spartan position. The game was over. The strategy was broken. Under the cover of darkness, the Immortals marched along the goat path. By dawn on the 3rd day, the scouts ran down from the hills to tell Leonidas the news. They were surrounded. This is the moment that defines the legend. Leonidas knew it was the end. He called a council of war. He told the other Greek allies to leave. There was no point in them dying. They should go home and prepare for the future battles. But he would stay. A Spartan law forbade retreat. But more importantly, he remembered the prophecy. The king must die so the city could live. Most of the allies left, but not all. And this is the part of the story often forgotten. The 300 Spartans were not alone in the end. 700 Thespians, led by their general Thermopylae, refused to leave. They insisted on staying and dying with the Spartans. It was an act of supreme courage that history often overlooks. The sun rose on the 3rd day. Leonidas turned to his men. He didn't offer them hope. He didn't promise a miracle. He offered them glory. "Eat a good breakfast, men," he said, "for tonight we dine in Hades." They did not wait behind the wall this time. They marched out into the wider part of the pass. They wanted to kill as many enemies as possible before they went down. The battle that followed was not combat. It was a frenzy. The Spartans' spears shattered. They drew their short swords, the Xiphos. When their swords broke, they fought with their hands. They fought with their teeth. They tore at the Persians like wild beasts. Leonidas fell early in the chaos. A hail of arrows brought the king down. Usually, when a general falls, an army breaks. But the Spartans were different. A furious struggle erupted over his body. The Spartans pushed back the Persian masses 4 times to recover their king. They dragged his body back, refusing to let the enemy defile it. They were protecting him even in death. Finally, exhausted, wounded, and few in number, the survivors retreated to a small hillock. They stood in a circle facing outward. Xerxes had had enough. He did not want to lose any more men to these demons in human skin. He ordered his archers to fire. The sky turned black. Thousands of arrows rained down. There was no glory in the final moment, just the cold, mechanical thud of iron into flesh. One by one, the Spartans and Thespians fell. Silence finally returned to the hot gates. Xerxes had won the pass, but he had lost the war. He found the body of Leonidas. In a fit of rage, uncharacteristic for a Persian king, he ordered Leonidas's head cut off and his body crucified. It was an act of fear. He wanted to show his army that this man was just a mortal. But the damage was done. The morale of the Persian army was shattered. They had seen that free men, fighting for their homes, could bleed a god. The sacrifice at Thermopylae bought the Greek city-states the time they needed. It united them. A year later, at the Battle of Plataea, a united Greek army would crush the Persians and end the invasion forever. Today, if you go to Thermopylae, you will find a modern monument. But there is also an ancient epitaph written by the poet Simonides carved into the stone. It is a message from the dead to the living. It does not boast of victory. It speaks of duty. Go tell the Spartans, stranger passing by, that here obedient to their laws we lie. Leonidas and his men did not die for gold. They did not die for land. They died for a concept. The idea that some things, freedom, law, and honor, are more important than life itself. They showed the world that a tyrant can kill men, but he cannot kill an idea. And as long as we remember them, as long as we tell their story, the king and his 300 do not sleep in the dark. They stand guard, forever holding the line. We have reached the end of another journey, through the dusty pages of history, but the whispers of the past never cease. Subscribe to stay with us on this mysterious voyage.